Pretty impressive start to the day. First 5 minute candle up 1.62%. Last night we had this nice little V-shaped recovery. I don't tend to like those too much because then it doesn't build any structure. So if the price does come back, it doesn't really have much support to land on, but we did build out some structure here. Seems like some of the fear is starting to subside and people are seeing this as more of a discount than a further crash. We did see a good amount of capitulation yesterday when we fell below the mining costs. I was saying in a video a few nights ago, made I did a live stream in the middle of the night about I think I called it like capitulation watch or something, and was saying that we could probably easily see like a 15 to 20% drop once we lost this average mining cost. I was thinking we could easily see like between like a 15 and 20% drop. Wasn't sure if we were gonna lose it at first, so I was still kind of holding out hope that there might be a bounce from that area. So, I had my shot at a long position, but once I realized it wasn't really going to work out, I just kind of cut out of it, and I'm glad I jumped out of the way of that freight train because we ended up getting that. We ended up getting that. That doesn't sound right. We ended up getting that sort of flash crash capitulation type move that I was sort of looking for once we lost that area, but it seems to be recovering like really pretty quickly. This is a pretty impressive stopping volume candle here as well. On the 4 hour. So the last few candles have been pretty optimistic looking. It seems to be showing some demand coming in at this point. Like I was saying, people were panicking a lot yesterday, but they might have just, sort of panic sold here and then bought back here. This is what I was saying about like the miners. If miners capitulate, it ends up just being cheaper for them to buy it on spot. They end up buying it on spot. That pushes the price up. And other traders see the price recovering. They buy in, pushes the price up further, eventually gets back above the average mining cost. And the miners then turn back on. They turn their miners back on. So sort of a bit of a self-correcting mechanism. I was also saying that the last two times that ever really happened in history was during the last two bear markets. The first one was COVID. We fell below it. We were below it for about 2 months. You did get a sharp recovery off of that flash crash as well, but it's hard to compare anything to a global pandemic, anything of that severity. So here there was like a 50% drop over here, and then that really just basically it doesn't show on the chart to the left because this chart doesn't have as much data, but it really did basically just retest the bear market low from that cycle, and then continue to recover and move on into a parabolic bull market. But yeah, the amount of time there was a sharp recovery like you see here. So people may have, probably a market consensus that it was a bit of an overreaction. And demand did step in right away, but it still did take almost 2 months for the price to fully recover back above that average mining cost. Here, it was almost the same deal, except you didn't have a 50% drop from this point. It only dropped about another 15, 16%. And then that put in the bear market low of this cycle. But again, we were below that Let me just see if I can find the right tool. We were below um, the average mining cost for a while. We didn't durably get above it, back above it for about another 2 months, but that was the bear market bottom. It just kind of consolidated and accumulated for about 2 months before perking back up. Eventually, self-correcting mechanism got back above the mining cost, and it always was above it. It dipped below it here back in March of 2023. This was like the banking scare, where like there was banks collapsing, like SVB and stuff. Like, so there was this banking collapse, but that just ended up putting in a macro higher low, and demand did step in. If you look at just to take a note out of the pages of the book that my friend Static wrote. He was saying that this candle here, this weekly candle, was basically so impressive that at this point he was calling that BTC was never going to go back below 25K again. So far that's been true, but yeah, this is I think it was after seeing this recovery. Long wick on the bottom ended up forming a hammer. It's a stopping volume candle. On the weekly, pretty impressive. Then we had this massive bullish engulfing candle come up after that. We eventually got back above the 50 weekly EMA and more or less held that as support before the BlackRock narrative and pushed on into higher prices, and eventually into price discovery. So we had, a pretty epic bull run, and then it ended up having to correct itself. Right now, where we're sitting is pretty much at the 200 weekly EMA. We did wick like pretty far below it, but it kind of looks like it's attempting to close back above it. So how far down did we wick below it? 13% below it, and then about 15% the average mining cost. So, and I also mentioned that this consolidation, I didn't expect it to just melt right through this. If we are going to go to lower prices, like some people are calling for 50 or even 30K, if we are going to do that, I don't expect that we're just going to melt right through this consolidation. It took a long time to build this consolidation. I know, because I was there. I was trading it. It was long and grueling. But yeah, now we're back there. So anyone who kind of wished that they bought BCC back here, it's back at the same price it was. But yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about, hey, like, buy the dips in an uptrend. Don't buy the dips in a downtrend. It's like my friend Ocean said once. I was saying before, like, um, people would have killed to buy Bitcoin at 30K. Like, when we came to revisit 30K this time, I was like, I don't get why there's not much demand. People would have killed to buy Bitcoin at 30K a few months ago. And he responded by saying, yeah, people would have killed to buy Bitcoin at 30K in an uptrending market, which isn't the case right now. It's not an uptrending market. However, we have corrected very severely in just a few months here. 52% in just about 4 months. For about 4 months, we've been going down, I'd say. So your typical bear market actually lasts about a year. If we take this from the top, 364 days was exactly a year. I'll have to go back on another chart to look at some other examples, but you can see that we've actually corrected quite severely in just a short amount of time. So that's something that's pretty abnormal for this bear market, is that it's already corrected almost as severely as it has in the past bear markets, except it's done it in a much shorter period of time. We're already back at the 200 weekly EMA. So do we fall below it? I know that we did fall below it here. And then that put in sort of this, in hindsight, what is an awesome accumulation range. And then you had your reaccumulation range back up here when you recovered it. So I don't know. I don't know if I see like a savage bounce in the cards, but there has been a theory floating around that we could have a sort of a shortened bear market cycle. Like if we just get it over with quickly, it's like ripping the band-aid off. So there's some people that are speculating that we could just have a shorter bear market that's really pretty severe, like in a short amount of time, before recovering and starting a whole new bull market that ends up actually lasting longer, and has more longevity. This would be, if this was to be sort of the end of the bear market, that would be the shortest bear market in history for Bitcoin. But it's not really that out of line with your typical bear market for the stock markets, because a lot of the bear markets that happen in the broader stock market, the major indices and stuff, they tend to see a bear market as a 20% correction. For whatever reason, I don't know why that's the main criteria for a bear market, but there's also been times that we corrected 20% or more and then bounced right back right away and ended up putting in new all-time highs. I guess there's a lot of news like this drop was kind of news driven, or at least they're trying to blame it on some sort of news that's coming out or that's come out recently. But technically speaking, we were showing weakness. We did project right from the 50 weekly EMA, and we had a decent dead cat bounce, I guess, but it ended up just putting in this larger bear flag, and that gives us a measured move for below where we're even at. I think it's sort of like the 40s, 51K sort of area. I was kind of expecting like maybe a 57K. We were looking at that number. A lot of people were putting out that number yesterday, but if it does get there, then whatever's happening in the short term with this short term recovery might get in the way of that. Might sort of step on its toes a little bit if it's trying to correct that far. But at some point, after so much capitulation and panic selling, then people realize, oh no, I made a mistake, and they buy back in. That buy pressure shows up, and you also have like what's called seller's exhaustion. So we could be seeing just a little bit of seller's exhaustion here, where there's really not many people that are still willing to sell, or the people that are still holding are down so much that they don't want to sell, or people are just holding Bitcoin for the long term and they don't want to sell. Some people just buy and hold Bitcoin and they never plan on selling. So I mean, it is like a good asset to be able to hold and leverage against, like taking out loans and stuff. So it has a good purpose. It's also a really good store of value because of its finite supply. It's really unlike any other sort of financial asset that existed before it. So I guess we'll just see. I don't know if there was gonna be a. We've already had a pretty good recovery. I mean, from the low. Let's see just how far it's gone up. It's already pumped 15% in 14 hours. Almost 15%. So that's a pretty good recovery so far. I feel like we do kind of need to come down and build some more structure if this is going to be a lasting bottom that actually has some longevity. Then we might need to correct, maybe take out some of this leverage. If we hit this anchored VWAP, I'll be keeping an eye on that on the 4 hour. Because if we hit this anchored VWAP and just wick right off of it on the 4 hour, that'll give me a lot of confidence that this recovery is actually real. It's not like some sort of dead cat bounce or automatic rally, or because if it does end up being just an automatic rally and or an automatic reaction to buy orders that have been sitting here for a long time, then chances are you do go into some sort of accumulation range where you then eventually either stab through and pick up, or you just start to hold higher lows and then get a sustained bounce. So I haven't really been in tune with what most other like YouTubes and stuff are saying. Like I'm not sure. Like I really haven't been tracking what most YouTube channels out there, like the mainstream YouTube channels, like which that's obviously not me. The main YouTube channels that stream, like your bigger names that most people follow. I have no idea what they're thinking. And so at the moment, I don't really know what the sentiment is of retail, like in general as a whole. I guess I could do like sort of a whole separate analysis on that, maybe later today or something. But I just figured I'd bring this up and show what's happened over the past few hours because it was a really crazy day yesterday, and yeah, super crazy day. We dropped a lot, and I'm wondering if it's over or not. Yes, yesterday on the day, let's just track. It fell 15% in total, but we're already up 15%. So, I mean, it's kind of taking back a lot of the price action that was caused by that capitulation. Maybe that's more of a corrective move um, than anything else, but I don't know. We'll
Hello.
see. Hello? Oh, it's Trogdor. What's going on, Trogdor?
They'll never forgive you if you don't want to lose our daughter again.
Hello.
Long. Hello? Oh, my bad. My mic was muted. What's going on, Trogdor? How you doing?
What's up?
Not much.
What?
Just chilling. I'm
What's,
doing a live YouTube stream.
oh, okay. Well, I won't interrupt you then.
Oh, well,
What are you
not
doing on
interrupting
YouTube?
you. I just
Streaming
figured I would,
some crypto stuff or what?
yep, just doing some live TA on Bitcoin and just, kind of recapping what's happened over the past few days and like, discussing the average mining cost, 200 weekly EMA, stuff like that, stuff that's happened in previous bear markets, and the percentage that we dropped yesterday versus the percentage that we pumped already today. It's pretty much in a nutshell what I've covered so far. I haven't really plotted out any trades so far yet today because I'm still kind of cautious about this pump up. I don't know if it's sort of more of a dead cat bounce rather than a true recovery. We might have to come down and retest some levels first before we can really get going. What's up with you?
Nice. Well, I had a couple questions, but it's probably not the time while you're in the middle of going over stuff. So
No. All right, cool. Well, I don't know
I'll
if you
catch
want
up with
to.
you later, man. If you once you're not live or something, okay?
Yeah, sure. I'll probably only stream for like another hour or so, and then if you want to come
All
back, or
right.
like you can always DM me if you want to. But on my probably on my other account is better.
Okay. I'll DM you.
All right, cool, bro. Talk to you soon. Let's see, is there a trade to be made here or not? I don't know if I have enough confirmation of that just yet. I need to check on something real quick. I'll be right back. Good morning, Juan Diego Santos. You're an absolute legend, bro. You're a champion. The top viewer. The top viewer of this YouTube channel. You're a king, my friend. Appreciate your support. If you got any questions or if you have anything you want me to look at or go over, just let me know. I'd be happy to take a look at stuff. Alright, so where does this line go? Well, my question here at the moment is the line that we're at right now, where does that come from? I have a lot of lines on my chart. I have too many lines. I wouldn't suggest having so many lines. It's better to just keep things simple most times. So this consolidation, I guess these all these previous tops where we broke out today, or not today, but where we broke out back, in October of 2024, came back and retested it, shot up before the election. This breakout and retest of this level pretty much on the day of the presidential election. It's a pretty significant level. Bitcoin has actually never gone below. We broke a metric because Bitcoin has never actually gone below the price that it was at when a new president was elected or on the day of the presidential election. It's never really gone below the price that it was at on that day, but we have done that. We have done that because we have gone lower. So we can actually confidently say this time is different because it is. For once, something was actually different. There was actually a lot of stuff that was different about the last cycle. There's a lot of different things that happened this bull market that didn't happen the last bull cycle. Such as like the fact that we made a new all-time high before the halving. That's never happened before. Before that happened, actually down in the bear, we had a weekly death cross between the 50 and 200 weekly EMA. I'm not sure if it was I think it was the EMA. Yeah, because we're below it here. So there's not as much data on this chart as there would be on another chart. Let me just go back to this other chart here because this will be cleaner and easier to look at. Turn off the Ichimoku cloud. So yeah, this 50-200 death cross, that had never happened before in Bitcoin history. I forget whether it's the EMA or the SMA, but I know it's one of the two. I don't think we ever actually got a death cross. The 50 has always been above, on the weekly at least. The 50 weekly EMA has always been above the 200 weekly EMA. And it's been that way for every cycle. Even in this bear market cycle, you never drop below it. Came back, retested, you still never drop below it. So it was pretty significant to me that we actually got this death cross here. And that sort of marked not the bottom, but it's where the recovery really started. It was sort of almost as if to say, like, look, Bitcoin has been slaughtered so bad. Bitcoin has been slaughtered so much. We really kind of should have. We kind of went above and beyond what we needed to do to put in a bear market floor here at 18K. But it still just dipped below it because the FTX scandal drove it down. Put it into like fear and greed. I think was at like 15, which at the time was like the lowest read I think we had ever gotten. But or maybe it was lower during COVID. I don't remember. But yeah, so in every other cycle prior to that as well, we had never dropped below the previous bull market high in any bear market. So I don't know if you would suggest that this here was a bull market high, like a cycle high. I guess it was before the first halving, but the bear market never dropped below there. You could say that maybe this was the bull market cycle high. I'd have to look at the actual timing on a different chart, but there was that one that didn't really. If this was the top of this cycle, then it wouldn't have fallen below. Then you have this bull market cycle, which once you broke out of it, the all-time high, you went parabolic, and during the bear market, you never came back and even touched it. And then this is where it started to get different, was you had this bull market cycle high, yet in this bear market, you did fall below it. You actually fell pretty deep below it. This is I wouldn't have been too concerned about it falling this much below it. It's still relatively like that same zone. You probably can't see too much price action on the weekly, but this this zone here, like I would have thought that it wouldn't have fallen through too far below that. So we just kind of drag it out here, you know. It kind of lines up with if you just do these other higher candle body closes, it kind of really wasn't too out of line. I would have thought that it would have held it up here, but it didn't because of like sort of like I guess for lack of better words, a black swan event with FTX. But I'm straying further from the point. The point is that it never really dropped below its previous cycle high before, and it did that this cycle. We also never got a death cross, and it did that in this bear market cycle. We never went above the previous all-time high before the halving. It did that this cycle. There's a sort of a few other things. I mean, I know that the monthly RSI, we never saw a bear market top, or we never saw a bull market top without the monthly RSI being at least 90 or above, and that happened this cycle. I was waiting to see if it would get above 90, and that's when I was planning on selling most of what I had, but that never happened. So I mean, it's just another metric, but is being broken. You actually kind of had this like, instead of making a higher high, you kind of had this like head and shoulders type structure that sort of ended up, playing out to measured move. So I mean, that's not a good look in terms of like, oh, we want to sustain. But you could have, I guess, you could have argued that it was just up thrust, and then, you know, could have been seen as like a continuation. But I mean, there's no getting above 100 anyway. So I mean, the best we would have gotten would be 100. And this is something that has been pointed out to me by, several other people. Is just like the RSI is making lower highs on both the monthly and the weekly. I think, or might have been the 2-week. But yeah, we've been making lower highs on RSI and higher highs in the price. So that's like a consecutive bearish divergence, which doesn't show much strength for Bitcoin. So I mean, that type of thing is concerning. But I mean, this time, like, I just showed a bunch of things that were different that never happened last cycle, and we've also never corrected this heavy in such a short amount of time. So that part of it's different too. I think in a lot of cases you end up holding up at the 200 weekly EMA, or at least around it or above it. The thicker white line, that's the 200 weekly EMA. The thinner one is the 200 weekly SMA. So you can see here you kind of got inside of this pocket and accumulated before blasting up above it. And that was your signal to, I guess, go long or start getting long, or start grabbing some positions. It did result in a lower high, and then corrected. I think we were well on our way towards this move here, but it got thwarted by COVID, just only temporarily. So even a global pandemic couldn't keep Bitcoin down that long. It still just had a flash crash and then recovered almost immediately. So I think we were well on our way to, like, let's say this move here. That could have just happened a little bit earlier. But because of the pandemic, it sort of got stunted, and we had this harsh correction. So that kind of threw off, I feel like that to some degree threw off the 4-year cycle a little bit. And then the parabolic run kind of had to make up for lost time. And then when we were corrected again, that was a little bit earlier than the normal, the bull market top would normally come in. So to correct that, it had to double back on itself, put in the, like, double top or slightly higher high here, like basically when the cycle should have ended, like according to the 4-year cycle. Then it had your normal 1-year bear market. and you only had about 2 months of accumulation here. You did fall below the 200, which I don't know if any of these candle bodies ever actually closed. I mean, this one did close below the 200 SMA, but before that, I don't think it was really a thing. I don't think it was really much of a thing to be closing below the 200 with any sort of durability, but we did do that this previous cycle. Um, we were below it for actually quite some time. So that was different. I mean, so some people say like, oh, this time's not different. This time's never different. But some things are. For the most part, it's the same. But history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So each cycle is unique, but each cycle also has its own little quirks. And back in the day, it was really mostly just peer-to-peer traded, and it wasn't as mainstream. There wasn't as much involvement. So the previous few cycles, like, prior to the 2020, or let's just say post-COVID bull market, prior to that, most of the other cycles looked relatively similar. Benjamin Cohen often points out that this was sort of a mini bull market, and it didn't actually last or have durability, and had to correct because we were in quantitative tightening, which we have been for several years now. So I guess he sort of compares what's happened here in this cycle to sort of the same conditions that were happening in this cycle, except the difference is we made substantial new all-time highs during this cycle, when this back here that wasn't the case, because it hadn't reached a new all-time high yet at this point to go into price discovery. In this case, it did. We didn't really go quite into price discovery right after the halving, or before the halving. We didn't really go into sustained price discovery, but it did hit a new all-time high. It did take out this high. And, just to draw some lines across here, I mean, that cycle all-time high, matched with this consolidation, matched with the 200 weekly EMA, the average mining costs that we, typically don't stay below for too long. We did have that flash capitulation dump below it, but I mean, I figured like that was to be expected. About 50, like I was saying, about 15 to 20%. Like not don't like maybe not it was to be expected, but if this then that. That's what we do here with TA. If this happens, then do this. If that happens, do that. So it's like whenever you're trying to make a trade, it's always got to be under certain parameters and whatnot. And, yo,
no one's here, man.
I'm doing a YouTube live stream.
Oh,
Welcome.
up YouTube. Yeah, I stick by it. Quite.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. But yeah, just to wrap up what I was saying real quick is that you are at an area of interest. Previous cycle all-time highs, the 200 weekly EMA. You're still above the 200 week SMA, but you're in that pocket. You're in the same type of pocket that we were in, back here during this cycle, in between the 200 week SMA and 200 week EMA. And you came and retested that pocket again later on. Not sure if something similar is going to happen, but the other difference between the two is we did make a higher high and a higher cycle high, when in this case we didn't. Here we fell below them both. So if you want to try to measure that, I mean, it did result in another 45% drop, so that's always a possibility. But yeah, like I was saying, I wouldn't have expected it to just melt through this whole consolidation. And I figured that if we lost the average mining costs, you could expect a 15 to 20% drop pretty quick. So that's what's happened so far, and we're in that pocket now. So the question now is, do we hold it? Do we hold these levels and do we recover? Is it going to be a sharp recovery, or is it going to be a? It's going to take a little bit like more time to come down, accumulate, get some build sentiment back up, and then continue on. So that's what we're waiting on now, waiting and watching for now. Anyway, what's going on, Max? What are you up to? You trading at
Oh,
all?
just walking to my buddy's place so we can work. We don't go into the
Yeah.
office on Fridays or Mondays, so he's got a really nice place where they have a nice lounge. You have free coffee there, like really nice coffee machine, like bougie. So I like to go work there because the internet's super fucking fast, and the lounge is like they have these marble workspaces that are super large and big. So, and yeah, the best coffee you can get. I'm walking with
I
my
don't know
buddies.
about
We're
that.
gonna. He's the one I work
Have
with
you
every day.
have you ever had Dunkin' Donuts?
No, dude, this coffee machine. I think it probably costs $30,000. This thing's insane. And anything you want with the little like puts a little, you know, design on it. Dude,
Yeah.
it's like a Keurig that puts a design on the goddamn top of the coffee.
Oh, like
You
those,
can get
like they
any.
do at
It's like a
those.
Keurig that puts a design on the goddamn. This thing's like insane. Like you can get any kind of style, and all you gotta do is just go in and do it. No, it's fully free at his where he rents his building in the work area. Crazy. Like the perks that he gets there, man. I'm like, I mean, he's only spending 500 more a month than I am. Like I just need to. What am I doing? Like I should have just gotten that. Like all these fucking get free coffee, you get nicer fucking internet. I mean, Jesus.
I've got a
But this is a
whopping
brand
3
new place.
viewers.
Yep. There you go. Hey, now we build. There's only one way to go is up, man.
Yeah, that's it. No, I got some absolute. Whoever's watching right now, you're an absolute legend. I just want you to know that. Thank you for joining me and Max here on the YouTube channel
That's
today.
right. For Wicked Trades
Wicked
with
Trades,
Quiet
dude.
Max.
Wicked Trades with Quiet and Max.
Right.
Except we're not even doing any trades right now.
Nope.
I should have. I feel like I should have tried to catch along last night, but it was so hectic, man. And there was so much madness. Sometimes when there's this much volatility, I prefer to just stay out of it and I wait for things to settle down a little bit. Wait to see if I can get a good signal. But
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I agree. I mean,
there's
if
always
you
going to
go
be
bigger
another
bag,
trade.
low leverage, yeah, you go bigger bag, low leverage, you're fine on a nice bottom area where you think it's a good bottom, let it rip. That way you're not worried about your leverage, getting fucked. And this is
We
a great
did have
area
some.
for bigger bag, low leverages. If we dial it back down again.
Well, we did have a.
I mean,
now
this
that I'm
whole
looking
area is
back at it,
great.
yeah, I mean it's low ass prices. People that were hoping to get in like before the election, or people that are like, oh, I wish I got in before the election because then it just freaking pumped like hell. It's back at that same price right now, buddy. It's actually it went to 60K. If you remember, I remember what it was like back at 50K and 60K, and I was like, look, I know that the price is higher than what I'm normally used to. Like, it seems like relatively elevated, but I have to still just see this as a value buy because it's gonna go up. I Bitcoin has these like D Block likes to call it a pressure relief valve, and it where you sort of have a blow off every 4 years, like the price corrects real sharply, and it sends it down to an area where, like, it makes more sense to pick it up because it's more at more of a value, or you know, not the coin being higher value. I just mean like it's a good value buy. Like it's like, okay, if this is a low price, like I can get in now, and the upside potential is far greater. Like it's more of a value when you buy cheaper. Like just when you walk into a store, it's like, you see something that's on sale and it says like, you know, 50% off or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's a value. That's a good value buy, I mean, how much have we dropped? Like, pretty sure we've dropped more than 50% at this point. Most of your, 52%. Most of your average Bitcoin bear market corrections are like 70%. Like, the first one was 90, the next one was 80, the next one was 70, so like, what is this one going to be, 60 or 50? Like that would make more sense than just going all the way down to 30K. I think it would be a little more uniform. I mean, 75% correction, yeah, brings you down to 30K, but I mean, if we're going to go with the law of diminishing returns where the upside percentage is smaller and the downside percentage that you correct is smaller, then we did get that diminished return. But in percentage wise, even though we made a higher high, the percentage return on the upside was diminished. So maybe the percentage on the downside is going to be diminished as well. We've already seen the highest point of severity in this market correction. It's always a possibility. I think Max had to dip out. Yeah, it looks like he left. But anyway, I'm still here. Yeah, so you did have this bullish divergence. Now, looking back at the 15-minute chart, you had a bullish divergence here, where you had a lower low in the price and a higher low in the RSI. So, yeah, that played out. Someone was trying to tell me yesterday that bullish divergence on the 15-minute doesn't mean shit, but so far it's put in a bottom. So far. Yeah, I mean, just dollar-wise, you were at 60K almost, and then now you're up at 68. So it's already pumped over $8,000. It's pumped up over $8,000 in within 24 hours. It's only been about 14, probably 15 hours at this point, 15 and a half. So I mean, that's pretty good. It's pretty cool. A nice little recovery. Seem to be struggling a little bit with the 200 EMA on the 15-minute here. Like I said, I'm not actually making any trades right now. Like, I'm just kind of trying to avoid the volatility a little bit, let things settle a bit, and then try to find some good quality entries later on, which I will stay updated about. If I'm making videos and I see a good entry like that I'm gonna take, I will mention it. Are you back, Max? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back.
What
Yeah,
happened?
my mom called.
Okay. Well, you gotta answer when mom calls.
Oh yeah.
Can't leave your mom hanging.
So now I'm about to be at my buddy's place. So
There's one thing you can't do. I understand leaving your girlfriend hanging, but not your mom.
right.
I'm not talking to you personally. I'm just saying everybody in general. Like, answer the phone when your mom calls. So did you you said you shorted one of these moves or something? Was it on a different coin?
Oh, I was shorting Knight. Yeah, yesterday well, the night before that. So going into yesterday, and I held that all the way through this dip, and then which is not. I mean, it was only like a 14-15% move. It wasn't like 50% or some shit. Like I mean, of how far it went down, but it was a good profit. And then I longed Sol at like 71
That thing
right
like
after the
recovered all
close.
the way too.
Yeah, I shorted Sol from. I mean, sorry, I long Sol from like 71. It was like maybe 30 minutes after the close or something.
Dude, this night coin, this is a perfect example of what you try to catch, where you're like, it's going all the way back to where it started. It literally did go all the way back to its lowest price.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. It has bounced and recovered sharply off of that. I don't know if it'll make it past the 50 on the 4 hour here, but we'll see. This isn't something that I normally trade. I like to stay away from these kind of shit coins as much as possible, unless I'm in a degening mood.
Right. All right. I gotta go, big guy. I'll be right back though. Hold on.
All right, brother. Well, that line doesn't really make much sense. That makes a little more sense. I mean, as you kind of come from here, like you could make it, I guess, a zone where the price tends to find resistance. Looks like it might be breaking that downtrend potentially, or if you don't see like a large shot up and then come back and retest for a higher low and then continue, then I would think that kind of just, if it does break, it might just go sideways for a while before it musters up the courage for a recovery, if this thing ever does recover. Some of these shitcoins, they just go all the way back. They come out, they pump once. I don't even know what this thing is, but they come out, they pump once, and then they just slowly bleed off for a long time, and then sort of level out. Sometimes they get a nice big recovery pump or something, or like a whatever. I don't know if I would call that a dead cat, but it's like an echo pump, sort of. Sometimes they get a bit of an echo pump after they fall. I like to just kind of draw fibs, and when you get moves back to like the 382, oftentimes with shitcoins like this, and then the people that ended up buying down here, they're like, whoa, I'm way up in the profit, I'm gonna sell, and then it just comes right back down again. Because assuming you bought in an accumulation range down here, 63%, it's not a bad return on just a shitcoin, But all these shitcoins have been coming out, it's like they're like little mini IPOs in the stock market. You look at a lot of different IPOs that come out in the stock market, like these new companies with a low market cap, they sort of do the same thing. They pump real hard when they first come out, and like everyone's all interested in the hype, because you got two groups of people. You got people that invest early because they believe in it, and then you've got people that see the initial pump, buy the retrace, they get in, and then you've got all the people that buy the hype. So there's, and I'm not talking about Knight. Like, I know nothing about this coin or token. I'm just saying the idea behind an IPO. You've got people that are early investors, or maybe people that got in, to, be able to invest in the company before it even IPO'd, those people take profit on the initial pump sometimes. But if there's movement upwards, when you see an IPO comes out, like it tends to just gain popularity at least for a couple days, and then it pumps enough to gain people's attention, and then people start to hear about it, and then they buy into the hype, which ultimately pushes it up to its high, and then sells off and kind of gets revalued or comes back to a more fair value that tends to reflect what the company is worth. A lot of times they actually go to a point where they're undervalued, and when they become undervalued, if the company is worth anything, that's usually when big players accumulate. But they usually have about a year's worth of time after the initial IPO and the big move up. They usually have about a year's worth of time before they can do their research and look into the company to find out if it's actually worthwhile, then see what the company's doing. The company has a year to sort of try to produce some sort of product or service, whatever they're doing, and show that they can be successful at it. Most of that stuff happens within the first year. So a lot of times when the stock comes out, it gets sort of repriced, finds out what the true value is of it, if it's worth a damn. Big players accumulate, and if it's not, then it never really ends up putting in any higher highs. It ends up just sort of putting in lower highs until it gets below $1 and ends up getting delisted. And if you get to a point where you're not meeting listing standards for NYSE or whatever, then they delist it from most exchanges and whatnot, and brokerage, like your brokerage doesn't carry it or support it anymore. A lot of times that ends up happening, especially with IPOs. But if the company's worth a damn, then that's the time to get in. If you do enough of your own research, like they say, DYOR, do your own research, like on the company, dig deep into it, find out what their earnings are like and what their plans are for the future. Are they actually delivering on the things that they're saying that they're going to do? And if they're not doing that, and they're not, they're all talk and no action, then they end up, just people understand and realize that, and they either don't invest or they sell off what they had bought. So not all trading is done just strictly off of technical analysis. A lot of it's done off of fundamental analysis as well. So like I said, that has nothing to do with Knight itself, the token, or the coin, whatever this is. I have no idea. I'm just looking at a chart and sort of giving an example of what an IPO listing kind of looks like and how it reacts. And a lot of these crypto coins kind of do the same type of thing that an IPO does. If it's not worth a damn, it dies, it gets delisted. If it is worth a damn, big players accumulate at lower prices, and then they look for distribution either at the previous highs or above the previous highs. So, for whatever that's worth, just trying to throw a little educational content in whenever I can when it comes to people that I'm not like a market guru or anything. I'm not like an expert. I'm no expert or nothing like that, but anybody that doesn't know as much as I know, I'd like them to know as much as I know, if that makes any sense. Or I'd like to be able to create value for anyone that doesn't know quite as much as I know, or doesn't know, or anyone that's just brand new to the market, and has no idea about what's going on. I like to try to create value for those people, because anyone else that I talk to that knows just as much, if not more than me, then I'm not really, I don't really have much to offer in terms of knowledge. But those people that I can help, I do try to help. And, maybe even if someone is very knowledgeable, and well versed in the ways of the market, how the market works and different market dynamics and how things tie into each other, there also may have been stuff that they overlooked or stuff that they didn't know about before. And then, they hear it from me and it's like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. So all of those ways that I sort of consider as a potential way to create value or, present value for somebody else that might help them gain some sort of edge, or just expand their own knowledge base. I like to never never miss an opportunity to try to do that. It doesn't matter if I'm helping, 1 million people, or if I'm helping 100,000, or if I'm helping 1,000 or 100, or even if it's just one person. If I can just help one person understand things better, then that's good enough. Like I still I'll still put in the effort, even if it means just helping one person, because it's worth it. Each and every person out there, is worth it. You're worth it to yourself. You're worth it to me. You're worth it to the world. You you know you owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself, and that's what I try to do every day. So if I can help even just one person do that for themselves, or even if I just say something that's inspiring enough to make people want to be better or do better, then it's all worth it. It doesn't feel like wasted breath. So hopefully there's at least one person. I think I'm just going to I might just let the stream run for a little bit through London close. Just to see what sort of happens here with Bitcoin, because honestly, there's a lot of hype that happens during the market open New York session. There's a lot of hype that happens in the early morning, like between 9:30 and 10:30. I mean, all of this stuff sort of happened more or less overnight, but from 9:30 to 10:30, usually some significant action happens, and then if it's to the upside, like it has been so far today, and a lot of times you could expect that when London session closes, there's going to be a drop to, like fill in any fair value gaps or whatever, or if there's liquidations beneath the price, that gives more incentive for price to drop, just to clear out all the leverage. Not that that will stop new people from coming in and using too much leverage, but it clears out the existing stuff that's there. It gives people a chance to, I don't know, roll the dice again, I suppose. So right about here, so this is when the London session started, like London UK session. So they've legitimately been pumping it this whole time. Off of these higher lows, they've been pumping it. The UK session didn't really start till right here. But yeah, they've just been pumping it. Asia. It looks like Asia session sort of recovered the dip, put in this V-shaped recovery, and then started putting in higher lows. Usually they make a range, but I guess there was just too much demand for a range to form. So instead, what was formed was some higher lows. I mean, I guess you could say that they made an effort to create a bit of a range right there. But once London stepped in, it was just like, oh, nope, we're buying. This is a discount. We are buying. And they pumped it pretty much all through the night. Or not all through the night, but through the early morning. From 3 a.m. up to market open. Then New York has taken over. So New York hasn't done anything as significant as London did from here to here, but they are going to be closing at 11:30, and they usually dump off. So anyone that bought, um, anyone that bought around here during like the Asian close or London session open, that little overlap period, anyone that bought down here, they're probably likely willing to sell here around this 200 EMA. Looks like some sell pressure coming in, and then also this level of resistance that I spoke about before. It was a previous resistance from 2024. You also have this more immediate short-term level that is sort of contending with finding resistance at previous bounce area, because this was the first time that it dropped below the average mining cost. It came up, it gave it a bearish retest. That's what this blue line is here. Came up, gave it a bearish retest, and then capitulated all the way down. So that move happened really fast. So I'm thinking this is just an automatic reaction, but yeah, it is quite the pump. I don't necessarily know if, I mean, I guess I could try to take a short from this level. Might make a little bit of sense. But I do know that it has been typical for, around 11 o'clock to 11:30 that it starts to dump. And with how aggressive these 100x long positions are, I'd say it gives a pretty fair chance to actually correct quite a bit for the rest of the first half of the New York session. Well, let's just see what happens, I suppose. I might try to jump into like a cheeky little short position if I find a decent opportunity for that. But aside from that, I'm just watching right now. If we lose this consolidation, that will more likely make me want to take a short. Especially if we end up putting in a lower high and then we drop below the 50 EMA on the 1 minute here, come back for a bearish retest there, that would give me more confidence to want to enter a short. But I haven't really seen that just yet. Anyway, I'll let the stream run for a little bit. Gotta go take care of something real quick, but I'll be back. Okay, well, it looks like it just kept pumping, or has been so far. It never lost that 50 EMA. Retested it, put it in a higher high. If it had lost this here, I probably would have tried to take a short into that liquidity. Now there's more liquidity that's built up, and it's sort of getting even more overbought. But yeah, that's it did bounce off of it, put in a higher high, got past this other level of resistance right here. It's more immediate short-term resistance. So the next one you have to contend with is right at the average mining cost, which I mean it's almost right back there. This is that self-correcting mechanism that I was talking about, where there's just enough buying that happens to where miners can get it for cheaper by just buying it, and there's not as much supply coming onto the market because nobody's mining it. Then it's just going to self-correct back to the average mining cost. So does it reject from there again? I don't know. I suppose it could. That would be a decent place for it to reject. No, my bad. I've got to take a phone call. All right, so London is closed. Haven't seen a dump come in yet. We may see that happen eventually at some point. I actually just got some really bad news, so I'm probably gonna have to cut the stream pretty soon because there's some stuff that I'm gonna have to deal with. Make some preparations for some things. Would be interesting to see if it's going to lose this 50 EMA here and maybe give up some of the momentum that it's grown here. But yeah, like I said, I don't really particularly like these V-shaped recoveries because they kind of just, there's an instant drop, instant recovery, and then no structure is really built on the way up to hold it up. So if it does fall, a lot of times it ends up just falling straight back through. So if we get a move where we end up cascading and falling straight back through, then we might just end up trading in a range here, between like 60 and 70 for a while. That could be a real potential possibility, which would fill in any like sort of gaps in terms of like fair value of price. But we really, I think for a sustainable move and recovery back up, we would need to retrace and, at least build some structure, within a range. There is a chance that it could just recover, come back, put a higher low, and then break back up. But the longs are getting pretty aggressive. It kind of seems like FOMO at this point. We haven't quite reached that point where we're at the average mining cost yet. But I do think that a lot of people might have tried to short, and they might have gotten taken out. So there is some more short liquidity. I mean, there's plenty of short liquidity all the way up to 80K. And then there's also, I believe, a CME gap that goes all the way up to 85K. Let me just take a quick look at that, just so that I don't misspeak on that. I'll be there by zoom up here. The gap was okay. There's a gap here on CME. I thought I remember there being one further up though, around 85. Maybe I was mistaken about that, or maybe I just saw it on a different time frame. Yeah, I mean there is this gap here. Let me actually take this out of the equation. Like it came up and it tried to fill this gap, but this was like sort of a massive gap that got left behind when CME opened. So it dipped into it a little bit, but not too far. It kind of more or less rejected from the gap. It looked like there was an effort to sort of actually push price down, so that it didn't fill the gap. Maybe so that it could be left behind for a trade up into the gap. But when these gaps get left behind, it's like every trader in the world sort of has a target to look towards. So that, I mean, goes up to about 84K. I guess it's not quite 85, but for it to have appeared on the daily, I mean, I guess the only real gap that hasn't been filled on the daily, the real true price gap, would be here. Some people take it from close to open, but which would bring you up to that 48 or 84K area. But I like to look at it as like, okay, some price action did happen in this day, so there's the true gap would just be where there's no wicks overlapping each other. So I'd say that could be a good potential target, just 81K. Because that gap does appear on the daily, even though there's a larger gap on the there's a larger gap on, you know, the 1 hour or whatever, let's say. But the gaps on the daily are the ones that I find tend to get filled more often. Sometimes they're sticky, but I don't know. I guess we'll just see if this daily candle engulfs, and if it does, it increases the probability of going back up to at least fill this gap. But until then, I would still expect some sort of a retrace off of this move, even if it results in a higher low. Like I said, there are a lot of short liquidations up here, all the way to 80K, so I guess you could, there's potential for, if we get back above the average mining costs, to push through and have like a short squeeze here. Maybe set up for a weekend trap, like D-Block likes to call it. You know, maybe we could set up a trap longs there and then trap shorts and have a range, something like that. That's also a possibility, but that might just leave too many long liquidations behind at that point for it to be sustainable. Or if it gets left behind, then we would still have something to worry about if the price ever decided to dip again. But yeah, by the way, yeah, check out, if you are not already subscribed to his channel, check out the Cipher by D-Block. D-Block is a great trader, and he, you know, does a really good job explaining things and teaching, and he's got a really good thing going on over there on his channel. So if you're not subscribed to D-Block's channel, go check it out. It's called the Cipher by D-Block, and yeah, he does a live 24-hour stream, all kinds of people talking. So that's definitely worth checking out, and he might have some insight as to whether or not he thinks we're gonna have a weekend trap set up or this weekend, or how that might play out. It's usually not really set until CME closes on Friday, which is 5 p.m. So it'll be 5 p.m. today. So there's still 5 hours left. I mean, there's 5 hours left to either, you know, potentially come up higher and set in a weekend trap higher at a higher range, or there's also potential for it to be set like around here, and then we drop down lower to trap some shorts, and then we just range lower and consolidate, and then figure out which side has more liquidity built up on it. If it's the short side, then you know, sometimes there's a false move down to just get long liquidity, and then you continue, or you reverse towards the upside. If the opposite ends up being true, sometimes it's a false move up, and then you actually trend down, and you know, maybe even revisit the previous low, or potentially even make a lower low. It depends. Like that price, we have to kind of wait for that type of price action to emerge, which again, like I said, is not really going to be very clear until about 5 hours from now. So just to give you guys something to keep an eye on. I mean, this would be the next sort of real resistance zone, is this 74K area as well. I have the 71 line on here for some reason. Let me just go back and see if I can figure out where the origin of that line is. Oh, well, yeah, obviously just like the previous all-time highs here. And, or, you know, the pre-halving all-time high, I guess I should say. Those areas around there. That's probably going to be an area that we would have to contend with. There's a fair value gap up inside of this candle here, so I mean 71.5 to 71.6 might be an area, or just comes back to the average mining cost and rejects from that. So just stay on your toes. Like I said, London is already closed, but this around noontime the market tends to slow down during the New York session. Check out US 100 real quick. Looks like US 100 had a drop. This is the NASDAQ. Had a pretty severe drop. I think this is the all-time high. It's like 8% drop. No, well, I guess the all-time high was a little bit higher, but it's relatively the same. But yeah, you had that drop, and then now you've got a recovery so far of about 3.5% almost. I would think maybe we at least come back up and try to test this. 200 EMA here on the 4-hour. In a day, though, that's a pretty good move for the NASDAQ. If you, making almost 3.5% on the NASDAQ in one day, that's pretty substantial. It's not something that typically moves that much, but just kind of trading in a range up here on NASDAQ, it looks like we have been for a while, pretty much since the all-time high. So this might be a case of like some sort of distribution pattern. If it does continue to range, and then maybe there's like a blow off top, not blow off top, but like an up thrust after the distribution, and then maybe it ultimately loses this range and rejects from the bottom of it, and that's where you get your sort of last point of supply before coming down and distributing. Or maybe that's a little dramatic for that, but back to the previous all-time high, maybe you get a correction. Or I mean, if I know the NASDAQ and I know that there's an AI narrative happening, I mean, it could just keep pushing higher, but you do have this, you did hit this 1.618 fib level, so that's why it seems to be having trouble there, even though it's kind of more or less been in price discovery when it hits the all-time highs. And chances are, if it gets within like 1 or 2% of the all-time high, then chances are it ends up usually putting in it just keeps putting in and making new all-time highs. But we'll see on that. We'll have to track that as we go. But that's a pretty impressive move for the recovery on NASDAQ there. It's not too often you see days with that not much of a percentage gain on the NASDAQ. I guess I'll just glance at Doge. Oh, Doge looks like it held that 8-cent area pretty well. Almost back up to 10 cents now. It's a pretty nice recovery. This is a hard drop, but yeah, 25% in a single day. Way to go, Dogecoin. Thing is still alive and kicking. Anyone who tells you that it's dead, they're wrong. Anyone who tells you Dogecoin is dead, they're dead wrong, alright? I mean, this might be, this 10-cent area is definitely going to be a level to contend with, so we might have to range there too before breaking back up above that. Dogecoin usually takes its time to make moves, but it also makes nice shapes and it tells you what's going on like pretty well. It's usually pretty clear about what its intention is. So silver is actually recovering pretty well too for the day. It has taken a huge drop recently, but back to 76. I mean, it's kind of relatively like a fair value, I guess. I mean, I think when we were up here, we were overvalued when we were above $100. Got up to like 120 something. So we are kind of a bit overvalued there, and then this crash, this corrective move happened, and then ended up resulting in some capitulation. It's been trying to recover ever since then. It also just put in a new lower low last night, and is trying to gain some strength and build off of that, I suppose. But it doesn't look too strong, and at the moment, it seems like the sentiment is not quite there. And Bitcoin has corrected much more than silver has, or at least much harsher. It was about the same percentage. Like I think silver corrected 40%, Bitcoin corrected 52%. But yeah, I mean, the crash on Bitcoin was just like a lot more, I don't know, a lot more like panic selly type vibe. So I don't know. We'll see if we can get past 70,600. then you might try to make your way up to that 74 range, and then potentially 80K over the next. Nah, I don't know if we can do all that in 5 hours, but if it is going to do that in 5 hours, it has to really push hard. Otherwise, I do think that we correct and either try to form a higher low, or we set up a weekend trap after. Maybe we trap some longs and then trap some shorts and then just go sideways for the whole weekend. That could be a possibility as well. I think that there's actually a strong possibility of that because it's something that happens pretty uniformly almost every weekend. So I would expect sort of a dramatic. We already have a dramatic move up. I would kind of, in my mind, I'm thinking we're going to get sort of a dramatic move down, bit of a recovery, and then we range for the whole rest of the weekend. That's sort of what I'm expecting, like so far for this, for today anyway, short term. I'll do another live stream like later on probably, but like I said, I just got some bad news and there's some stuff that I have to attend to, so I kind of can't keep the stream running very much longer, but hopefully that gives anyone watching any sort of guidance that they might be looking for. And yeah, like I said, I'll try to stay updated. And I will catch you guys later. Anyone who joined the stream, thanks for joining in. And I guess hit the like and subscribe button, or get notified somehow if you want to be up to date with when I go live and when I stream. Then guess you kind of have to like hit the subscribe button and the bell for that. I don't know exactly how it works. I tend to not get notifications unless I hit the bell notification thing, and even then I still don't. Hold on, I'm on my computer. But yeah, if you want to join in, just feel free. I'll try to, like I said, I'll try to stay updated with the price action as it emerges. And if you want to join my Discord and come talk to me, if there's some questions you have that you want to ask me live, or if there's anything you want me to clarify, then you can ask me live right here in my Discord channel. And I guess I'll put a link to that in the description in case anybody wants to join. Or, also if you have something that you think you can teach me, then I'd love to hear it. Like, I would love to hear people that know more about the market than I do. I want to hear from those people. I want them to, also try to tell me like what's going on, or like if there's something that I don't know about that they have like a lot of expertise on. I love to learn stuff too, so I like to teach people stuff, but I also love to learn new things. So anything that you feel like you could add, it'd be greatly welcomed and appreciated. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up right there, but like I said, I'll try to do another one later. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Take care. Yeah, by the way, don't force yourself into a trade. Try not to FOMO in on these type of moves. If there's a setup that's good, then by all means, like, take it. If your methodology says to put on a trade, then put on the trade, but try not to get caught up in the hype and the dramatic moves and the volatility, because a lot of times I found that I've ended up getting burned when I tried to do that. So don't force the trade, trade the force.